is headed to Rome. He says, now this moderate south wind came, and supposing that they attained their purpose, they weighed anchor and began sailing along Crete, close inshore. But before very long there rushed from the land of a violent wind called Aquilo. And when the ship was caught in it and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and let ourselves be driven along, running under shelter of a small island called Claudia. We were scarcely able to get the ship's boat under control. Now you got to know that these people are professional ship people. This is not uncommon for them to be on boats and so on, but they're professionals. So you got to understand, I'm trying to paint a picture, that this is life and death for them. They understand that this is a different type of storm. In fact, they believe ultimately that they're going to die. But again, storms help us rid ourselves of the things that are not important. Look at verse 17. After they had hoisted it up, they used supporting cables and undergirdings the ship, in fearing that they might run aground to the shallows of Cyprus, which is basically what they call the graveyard of ships. And many ships have sunk in this Cyprus. It says they let down the sea anchor, and in this way they let themselves be driven along. The next day, as they were being as a violent storm tossed, they began to jettison the cargo, and in the third day they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands. Now, this ship that is headed towards Rome, now the storm is so bad. Now, of course, they have cargo on this ship that is important cargo. It's like throwing away money, basically. So they have all of this stuff on their ship, and the storm is so bad that it says they were being violently storm-tossed. They began to jettison the cargo. They began to throw stuff overboard. So all the stuff seemed necessary when they got on this ship, but when the storm came, they realized that some of this stuff you don't really need. Amen? It doesn't matter. Listen, when you're faced with life and death, the stuff that you got on the ship, your furniture and all of that other stuff, that stuff really doesn't matter, right? Listen, when God blesses you with some stuff, that's great. But listen, when you start to lose focus and God allows a storm to come, you can refocus on the things that are most important. And so they started to throw things overboard. What is it in your life that you need to throw overboard? And by the way, you don't have to wait until the storm comes to start getting or ridding yourself of some stuff that will rock your boat and sink your boat. So they began to jettison the cargo. And on the third day, notice this, I believe Luke is letting us know that these storms it's not just a day storm. They're going through these storms for a period of time. It says, and on the third day they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands. We don't need this. Listen, just pause right now and think about some stuff that you need to get rid of in your life. What is it that's keeping you from fully committing to God? Those things you need to throw overboard. And look at the outlook in verse 20. Since neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, and no small storm was assailing us, from then on, all hope of our being saved was gradually abandoned. They thought they were going to die. Now, if you knew today that you were going to be dying tomorrow, what is it that you would focus on? What is it that you would get rid of? the way we need to live every day. And you know, sometimes God blesses us with material things, and we work so hard to keep our material things, and ultimately, one of these days we're going to die. And your kids that you raised so well, that stuff that you value so much, they're not going to value it. And that's sad, but guess what? It's true. They're going to probably sell your stuff. For not even a quarter of what you paid for it. They're going to have a garage sale. Storms help us to rid ourselves of the things that are not important. Listen, before the storm comes, start thinking about what's really most important in your life. Family. You know, it's time to reconcile with family members and get things right. Amen. And so we learned that the majority rule is not always the best rule. They didn't listen to Paul. Paul told them it's not a good idea to go. You know, sometimes even in church, we want something so bad that we just won't listen to godly wisdom. We just want to move forward. And sometimes God allows us to go through storms to help us see that we didn't need that. Amen? So the majority rule is not always the best rule. Secondly, storms help us to rid ourselves of the things that are not important. And in verse 21 through 26, we see that sometimes we enter storms because we don't respond to godly rebukes. And I'll add, but God still comforts. Sometimes we go into storms because we just are headed. Listen, I've always said this, God is not trying to keep you from the best, He is trying to keep you for the best. And sometimes we want stuff so bad that we're willing to do whatever it takes to get whatever we think we want. But sometimes it's because we don't respond to godly rebukes that we find ourselves in the middle of the storm. Verse 21. When they had gone a long time without food. Now, they're just trying to stay alive. They're not eating. No time to eat when the storm is raging. They think they're going to die. It said, and a long time without food, and Paul stood up in their midst, and I love this. He says, men, you ought to have followed my advice. In other words, Paul said, I told you. Listen, I told y'all, you know what time it is. You know that we're in a dangerous sailing time, November 11th through March 30th. We're right in the middle of that. You know this is dangerous. You should have listened to me. You should have followed my advice and not to have set sail from Crete and incurred this damage and loss. Yet now I urge you to keep up your courage. Now I just want you to just imagine Paul is the least man on the ship. He is in bondage. He is a slave headed to Rome, and Paul has emerged as the leader on the boat. Listen, leadership is not just a title. Listen, if you're a leader and God has called you to lead, you don't need a title to lead. Just lead. Just do what God has called you to do. Listen, it really does make me sick about all the titles. And you go, folks, you go to places and you got titles everybody wants a title. Listen, just do what God has wired you to do. You don't need a title. Because all that we do as unto the Lord. He says you ought to followed my advice and not have set sail from Crete and incurred this damage and loss. Yet now I urge you to keep up your courage, for there will be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. And so this vessel that we're on, he says, the ship is not going to make it, but you all going to live. Verse 23, 4. And by the way, sometimes you feel like you're not going to make it through these storms, amen? Anybody ever been there? Well, sometimes you just want to stay in bed all day. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, depression has come up so often. And listen, and it is very real. Sometimes you are going through storms in life and you just don't want to get out of bed. But be of good courage. God knows, and he will get you to the other side. You're just going to have to keep trusting him. He says, for this very night, listen, he says, an angel of God whom I belong and whom I serve stood before me, saying, do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand before Caesar, and behold, God has granted you all those who are sailing with you. So the storm is raging. Paul is on this ship. The men are not eating or drinking, and they're just trying to stay alive. And they are literally afraid to death. And Paul says, listen, you should have listened, but be of good courage. Listen, this ship, we're going to lose the ship, but everybody's going to make it to shore. He says, how do you know that, Paul? Well, because an angel came to me and he told me that you're going to make it to the other side. Isn't that encouraging? Now, here's the reality. These folk probably don't know God. The only ones that our text lets us know that actually knows God is Luke, who is with Paul, as well as Aristarchus. And so they're the three believers on this ship, and this angel has told Paul that we're going to make it to the other side. You are going to stand before Caesar, and behold, God has granted you all those who are sailing with you. So in other words, he said, listen, all these folk who are on the ship, we'll find out how many here in a second. All these folk on the ship, their lives are going to be contingent upon you. You are enslaved. You are in bondage. But ultimately, he's saying that you are in my will, and as long as you're in my will, I'm going to get you to the other side. By the way, it's good to surround yourself with some people who are on the ship with Jesus. Listen, it's good to have some folk around you who know Jesus. Because the storms are still going to come, amen? And sometimes, listen, sometimes when you're going through your storms, and if the folk around you are not panicking, the folk who know, who are in touch with God, if they're not panicking, then you don't need to panic. I shared a story some time ago about when I was in college. I was a military recruiter. So basically, when military people would come out of the army and they would enroll in the college, they would get credit for being in the military. So I was the guy who would give them the credit for being in the military. And so because that was my position, they wanted to acclimate me. They wanted me to understand really what goes on in the military. So they sent us to Fort Knox, Kentucky. I got, my military gear. I was, if I wasn't an athlete in college, I definitely would have been a military person. Because I like structure, as y'all know. I like everything, just right. I moved the table. The table was crooked this morning, just a little bit. And so anyway, so they send me to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and I get to, go through the regiment. They teach me how to march like a soldier, and they teach me how to rappel off of walls and all of that. I mean, it was wonderful for me. And then they put us on a Black Hawk helicopter. I mean, I'm like in my element now. I'm feeling like I'm Rambo for real. I got all my military stuff. I'm in this Black Hawk. The door's open. The wind is blowing through my face. I'm like, yeah. Good thing I ain't have a firearm. I probably would have shot everybody in that helicopter. Anyway, they came to this place. Now, Black Hawk helicopters, that's an amazing machine. It really is. And so it takes off. Basically, it goes straight up, and then it's almost like a UFO or something like that. They go straight up, and then they go. And so anyway, they get to this space, and then they start coming down. We get out, and I'm like, yeah, So basically, they take us to a war scene. I don't even know what you would call it, where they're simulating a war. With exercise, is that what they call it? So they're doing an exercise, not like push-ups and stuff, but they real exercise. I'm talking about they're using live ammunition. Okay, so they take us off, and then the guy comes out.